Put on your mental track shoes and run with me. This is the powwow with Myra. Would you say you've always been pretty creative?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Because even with like your furniture store, like you're decorating. Oh, we are. Okay, well,
Oh.
nice to know.
Thanks for telling us that. Uh, yeah, even with the furniture store, we come up with ideas all the time of how to make our customers aware of what we've got, and I love it when they come into the store and it's people that have never been in here. Here we are in a small town, and we've survived now. Well, we bought the business in 2009, and we've survived well for 14 years now. And in a small town like Peru, our population is probably 13,000. Um, I'm
Yeah,
pretty proud of that.
small town.
A lot of people that know us because we've been here all our lives come in
Mm,
and support us, support
yeah.
our business. And that means a lot. And then they tell a friend, and that friend tells somebody else, and they're like, my gosh, I never even knew you had all this stuff. I never knew this store was here. And then I'll say, well, we've actually been in this building for 20 years. What? Here we are, right on the main street in town. It's crazy.
Wow.
Oh, no, maybe I would have done the same thing myself and not noticed a business, but I can't imagine. We've got a lot of store window front here.
Right. Actually, more than any other building around here.
Yeah, it's the biggest storefront downtown,
Mm,
which I love this building, you know.
yeah. So, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today we have Grandma Gloria Hentgen. And, we'll just continue getting back onto it real quick. Just wanted to introduce you. But, as you hear us speaking, we're talking about her furniture store here in Peru, Indiana. GJ's Home Furniture Store,
Home and office.
home and office.
Yeah, got to get both of those in there because originally it was Daywall office furniture.
Mm,
So when we bought it from my brother-in-law, who I worked for years, and changed it to home furniture and office furniture, I had to educate the public about the fact that we've changed and that we do have everything that goes in your home and in your office.
that's right. I mean, yeah, you have to really be not, I wouldn't say dumb it down, but it's kind of obvious like, hey, this is
Come on in.
come on in.
Home and office.
Home.
But bless their hearts, they come in, and thank goodness, I'm thankful when they come through the door. But so many people that do come in for the first time will say, I thought you were just office furniture.
Now, were you guys just office at one point? Okay.
Yeah, but when it was Daywalt office furniture, my brother-in-law, Carrie Daywalt owned the business, and I worked for Carrie for years, probably 15 anyway, and it was all
Mm,
office furniture. And
okay.
he built the business from a small little shop down on Broadway, and he would go to auctions and buy office furniture, and then he built the business up and got the rights to buy product from Doan Keys, who is just down the road from here,
Okay.
and so they're an office furniture distributor. So that's where we get our office furniture, and it's nice because they've got lots in stock. So when
Mm.
people come in to buy office furniture, we can deliver it the next day if we need to.
Oh, that's nice.
And the
Nice.
installs, we do the installing and all. But
So if you worked for him 15 years, was that once, like, how long had he been on the business?
Carrie started the business. Well, while I was working for him, not long before he sold it, he had been in business for 25 years.
Okay.
And granted, it was just a small thing to begin with.
Right.
He retired from the Peru Police Department. Um, and that was when he decided to go into the business.
Mm.
Of course, office furniture has changed a lot. We used to sell files all the time, and we could get seconds from Doan Keys and give our customers really good buys on files that were very good files. Maybe had a little dent on the
Mm.
back or the side or something wrong, and we would fix it. And they were so happy to be able to buy the seconds that we could get. But now I don't. I haven't sold a 4-drawer file in a year. They're just obsolete. I mean, nobody needs them anymore
Yeah.
because of computers. And we used to sell computer desks
Wow.
a lot. Now we
Okay.
still do sell, obviously, home computer desks, quite a few of those. And we sell a lot of bigger office furniture, but we don't sell near as many computer desks as we used to sell.
That's probably like a lot of laptops right now
Yeah.
too, right? So it's interesting how even the technology has evolved that side of the world of the file cabinets, and nobody would know other than, people that sell them.
Yeah. Yeah. If and people that want me to buy their used their office files when they're used, it's like, I'm sorry, I just don't have a use for those. I'd be stuck. I
Can't
can't get
sell
rid of
them.
them either. So forget it. Forget it.
Wow, wow.
Uh,
So let's take it back a little bit and see how it is that, you ended up owning not just a store but also even the building, which
mhm.
is pretty large.
It is. It is. It's about, I think it's 5,700 square feet
Oh yeah.
in this building. And yeah, we were renting it. And I asked the family that we were renting from, um, we approached them several times,
Mm.
2 or 3 years. We would mention it. And she always knew that we would buy it if we could and if she wanted to sell it. And finally, she did then decide to sell it. So
Mm.
we were very fortunate to be able to acquire it.
Yes,
But
for sure.
I love this building, and I love being on Main Street
Yes.
in town.
This
And
corner is so perfect,
yeah,
so desirable.
yeah, yeah. And we're catty cornered from the courthouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
tell
the
a lot of people, well, if you can't find it, we're catty cornered from the back of the courthouse. So
yes, it is definitely such a beautiful view.
yeah, it is.
Um, so tell me a little bit about your early years, like, growing up as a child, like what sticks to you as you're
Yeah.
growing up with your family?
Well,
And how many of you were
there was 5. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I have one brother that's 6 years older than me. Then I was the second child, and my mom had 4 kids in 5 years. And my poor brother that was 6 years old at that time, by the time he was 11 years old, he had 4 little rugrats crawling around, and so I don't think he ever quite got over that, actually. He's like, "Oh, when
traumatized?
I get the chance, I'm heading out of town," and he's been out of town ever since.
Really?
Yeah. He's like,
Where'd he go?
California.
Okay.
California, yeah. And now he's in Las Vegas, but see, my he's 81 years old now, so but he's
Mm.
still very active too. But yeah, we were raised in a really good home.
Mm.
My dad was a railroader, and my mom she never did work other than being a mom and a homemaker. Um, and I can't I when I think of my childhood, I have no memories of anything bad at home.
Mm.
Yes, we were disciplined, but we deserved it. When we got in trouble,
Right.
they were never angry at us for no reason at all. And we did get spanked,
Mm.
but we were
By
good
both
kids.
parents?
Yeah, yep. Usually my mom was the one, but dad was gone a lot
Mm.
because of being a railroader. So she never did say, "Wait till your dad gets home." She took
Yeah.
care of it. She didn't lay it on him.
She had to keep control of y'all little
I
ones,
mean, think about it.
or or
4
y'all would
kids in
take
5
over
years,
her.
and yeah,
Yes.
forget it. I had 3 kids in 4 years, but she had 4 kids in 5 years.
Wow.
My sister had 3 kids in 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Who would do that?
Yeah. It
Who
must be
wants
a
to do
family thing.
It must be. Don't be in such a hurry, people. Slow down. Oh
And how
gosh.
was your relationship with your siblings?
It was good. It was good. My oldest brother, the one that was he was honestly, when I think about it and the circumstances, he was the only child for 6 years. So think about it.
Mhm.
So
Right.
he's the only one, and then all of a sudden mom comes along and has a baby.
And then
And
another.
then 15 months later, she has another baby. Then 20 months later, she has, so he got pretty much shoved out of the picture, poor guy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, very quickly.
but we
Well,
did, we didn't argue and fight a lot. We weren't allowed to speak badly of each other,
mm.
and we weren't allowed to speak badly of other people.
Oh.
We were never that was not a part of the conversation in our home.
Mm.
And mom always said, and I never heard my parents speak badly of anybody. She always said, if you don't have anything good to say, just don't say anything.
Wow.
And I mean, it's so true. It's so much better if you just
Right.
respect others. And yeah, maybe you've got some negative thoughts about things. What good is it going to do you to air those thoughts anyway? It's just going to
Right.
be hurtful to somebody,
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
I mean,
the
and that's really the way they lived.
mm.
When we went to church, which we always went to church every Sunday, um, she somebody with 5 kids, you would think you'd set toward the back of the church in case things started going wrong and you had to
Right.
leave and take 1 or 2 of them out.
And it's easy escape plan.
Yeah, and so what no, took us right up to the front of the church. 3rd row from the front is usually where we sat. So when the preacher looked out from the pulpit up there, he could see us right there in the front row. So
Mm. And that
I
was
didn't
it.
dare misbehave in church.
Did you see anybody misbehave and maybe didn't want those consequences, or was it just a thing out of respect? You would say.
Yeah, it evidently, I mean, respect for authority.
Mm.
First of all, we knew what was expected of us, and then I think respect for the preacher
Mm.
being in the church and knowing that that was no place to misbehave.
Yeah. So speaking of respect, how would you compare uh, how respect was instilled in say children back in the day versus say now, based on your life experience on how you've seen time evolve and how respect used to be and versus how it is now, or how similar is it? What would you say?
Well, the thing is that people really ought to take the golden rule to heart, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Mm.
That's pretty much seems to be or beginning to be a thing of the past. And it's so sad to see because of social media and everybody being able to air their opinions to thousands of people at once. And I really, I mean, it's like a totally different world to me that we live in compared to the way that we were brought up.
Right.
And, all those things, respect your elders. Um, Sometimes children are better seen than heard.
Mm.
Just, I don't know, just basic stuff. But I mean, I feel like I grew up a perfectly normal person. Um, I was taught a lot about God and about what my behavior as it relates to what God expects of me
Mm.
would be. And he certainly wouldn't want me to disrespect others,
Mm,
that everybody was created by God and everybody should have an equal chance. And, you did, I don't know, it frustrates me,
yeah.
the lack of respect for discipline, the lack of respect just toward other people.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
It's
Right.
sad, really.
And, I think about that often because, being kind of like in the middle of kind of both worlds, um, like seeing, for example, how, or hearing about like how, say, my grandma and them, or my mom and how they grew up, and then versus what we see nowadays, especially. So I try to think about what is it that is missing, right? So, say, or let me ask you this. So say if you have a kid you must care for and raise
Mhm.
today, when today's
Mhm.
current lifestyle, like how would you raise this child that you now need to raise?
To raise in this, I don't think that you change anything in your own home.
Mm.
That your values are what need to be taught.
Oh,
If you can instill your values and the values that that God would have you choose, that you can never go wrong doing that.
mm,
That in spite of the behavior that they are going to be seeing around, I still think there's enough good people in this world to set examples and 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 to lead children in the right direction.
yes.
So I don't feel like good can't win, and I don't think that love, anything done with love, is ever the wrong thing.
Mm,
So you
that's a good
know,
way to put it. Yeah.
when you see something that's been done wrong or something is done wrong to them, you're going to have to teach them how to react because they're
Right.
going to want to react with anger and hatred,
Mm,
and that's the total opposite of what should happen when things go wrong. You
right.
know,
Right.
you 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 can't allow it. You just can't allow it.
So how is it that you learn to manage, say, those feelings? Or how
Of
were you taught? Like,
uh,
say, for example, especially in the younger years, say somebody takes your ball or your doll, and then now
mm,
you get upset. Growing up, you have these certain rules or values at home you can't disrespect. You have to take care of your siblings, right? And
mhm.
in most households, usually, the siblings get mad at each other for the simplest things, right?
Oh
Just
yeah,
because.
and I'm not saying we didn't get mad at each other
Right, right.
sometimes too. Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, I would say I'm curious to know how your parents helped you kind of work through those feelings, and, even going to school and the love life and
hmm
heartbreaks or whatever.
I would say that it was just a part. It was, first of all, it was a part of the type of person that they were.
Mm.
So that
Mm.
modeling their behavior
Okay.
and their reactions to things, and then that
Okay.
just became what we were.
Okay.
So if you start with good parents, good grandparents, good parents, um, then it just evolves into that natural reaction.
I see.
If you decide that you're going to get angry about something, then my mom especially would always remind me that that wasn't the right thing to do. We were never allowed to physically um, hurt or do anything in anger
Mm.
or in violence, whether it would be to hit our brother or sister because we were angry, or whether it would be to grab a toy and throw it, or whatever it was. It just was. It wasn't allowed, and we knew that it wasn't allowed.
That's so interesting because we have talked before, even on podcast, about the important of like us wanting to set a good example, say for our kids, for Maddie, because we understand that they model, certain behaviors of their parents. And I never even thought about like they model even the way you react
Mhm.
to things, which is exactly what you just said.
Mhm.
It not necessarily that it was taught, it was just that's what they did, that's what you modeled.
Mhm. It was
This is how you handle these
yeah.
certain situations.
Mhm.
And so I didn't even think about that side of modeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the
And
behavior and not even thinking about
right,
it because you that is that is the person that you are.
right.
So the person that the persons that both parents are end up being, in
Yes.
most cases, the person that that child is.
Right. No, it makes so much sense.
Mhm.
Um and that's like an aha moment
Oh,
here,
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because it isn't
I mean, there's no
y
recipe for it. It's just
no.
we
Mm-mm.
are who we are, and we're creating these creatures, and
Yeah.
we are their biggest influence and the people around them.
Well, think about it. When you know of someone that's not living the way that they should, or
They could. Right.
they're letting their you've seen it, people that fly off the
Vices.
handle and don't control their anger and their reactions, and they're angry at everybody else. And
Mhm.
then what do you think to yourself? What are their kids going to be like?
Mhm.
You just that's a thought that you can't help but have
Right.
because you know those kids are living with that example.
Right.
So how much simpler it is to I just live the way that you know that God would be proud of you to be living.
Right.
And always use love as your motivation.
Mm.
It's so true. God is love. I mean, if we all lived like that, think what the world would be like.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I agree, and it's funny because I've heard it several different times and by certain different people, and it's like every time it takes like a different kind of meaning, right? Like a deeper meaning of like what love is, and it's like all the intention behind anything that you do.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then, you did mention earlier, as long as there's no right or wrong, as long as it's done with
When
love.
love is the motivation, it's an easy decision. If you ever
Mm,
don't know what to do,
mm,
you just do what you know will show love, and then it's an easy decision.
wow.
There's no thinking about it, and prayerfully you would consider your actions, but you know that in your heart, if your motivation is right and you believe that God is love, you can't go wrong.
Mm,
It it doesn't matter if your
yeah,
heart is right.
yeah, yeah. I can see that. I can definitely see that. And we have that conversation sometimes with different things that especially events that happen. It's like, okay, what was the intention behind it? Was the intention good? And if it
Y
was, then okay, that's what matters.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and sometimes the outcome isn't what you wanted, but
Right.
you know, and you always need to live like that because I'm telling you, when you get to be 75 years old and you look back on your life, you're gonna wanna know that the decisions that you made
Mm.
were motivated for the right reason,
Oh,
so you don't have any regrets, you know? You
yes.
just you just have to keep that in mind.
That is like what you just said. It's like a an an audio to just have on repeat because it's
Yeah.
because
It's true.
it's and sometimes you don't know what to do, and just hearing something like what you just said, it's like okay, y- you start kind of organizing your thoughts into okay, what is it that I truly care about, or what I believe in that's based on those values you spoke
Exactly.
of earlier. That
Yeah.
yeah, so okay, so let's talk a little bit about like you're in high school, your high school years. There's such a defining moment, I think, for everyone, because that's when things are changing in your body, and then, you start getting excited about the real world and meeting your love. And for some people, it happens soon. For some, it's a long journey, right? So,
Yeah.
what would you say? What were you like in high school? Like, if you and I would have been friends, what were you like?
I, I was very, very active, involved in a lot of different clubs and
Mm,
activities. I love the athletic events. I was not a cheerleader, but I was in the cheer block, which was a big deal when I was in high school. We wore matching shirts, and we had mittens that we did cheers on, and they were one color on one side and one on the other, and we would do that, probably 100 of us,
mm,
in the cheer block. And then, of course, I met my lifelong partner when we were in high school.
mm.
Well, not even high school. I
Not
was
even high school?
not even high school. I was 13 and he was 14 when we
Wow.
when we began to know each other.
How'd you meet him?
Well, he called. I knew who he was because my friend at the time liked his best friend. So
Mm.
I was kind of trying to keep track of them for her. Now this was in the 8th grade.
Right, for
and
her.
so and so in the process I noticed his friend, John. And so anyway,
And then
that's
you
how
lost
I
track
got
of the
to,
other guy?
then, and then they never became a thing, but John and I did.
Oh,
So
really? Okay.
yeah, but he called. He called when I was only 8th grade, and he was 9th grade, and he called, and we could have little dates like the school play or the school dance or things like that. Um, and he called and said, well, one of his friends called. Um, and she said, if John Hentgen called and asked you for a date, would you go with him? And I said, in my wisdom, in my youth, I said, well, why don't you tell John Hentgen to call me? So, and now he thinks that's so funny because he said, knowing you, that is what I would have expected you to say, but I didn't know you that well then.
Yeah.
So anyway, I hang up, and then about 5 minutes later, the phone rings, and there's this voice that says, "Hello, this is John Hentgen." Oh, hi, hi, John. So that was how we got to talking on the phone a lot, and we went to the school play. Was our first. Harvey was the name of the play. It's a story
Mm.
about an imaginary rabbit, Harvey.
Okay,
That's
Harvey.
the name of your dog.
That is the name of our
Yeah.
dog.
So that was our first thing. And of course, John's brother had to drive because we were too young for any of that. But, mostly we didn't date hardly ever. We just were together at school.
Hmm.
And
Do you guys hold hands?
we would, every chance we got. And we would get together at his mom and dad's, or at my mom and dad's. He would go to football practice in the summer, and in August, before football season started, and he would walk from the football field over to my house afterwards, and then he would walk all the way home to where
Mhm.
he lived, which
Mm.
was it was a pretty good. I don't know mileage wise. I mean, it was clear across town though. But at first, he'd walk the opposite direction to my house.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what true love will do for you.
Yeah. Yeah, he put in the
He
sacrifice.
was motivated, I
Yeah.
guess.
So
Oh,
what
shoot.
did you see in him that attracted you?
You know, I mean, like our first date, I didn't even know him. I began to talk. I was very comfortable talking to him on the phone. And then by the time we went to the school play and we were actually together, um, I mean, we were just comfortable together.
Mm,
We were just
enjoying.
conversation was simple, and wasn't nervous once, the initial together time started. And um, we
Yeah.
were almost to my house. His brother's driving. We're in the back seat. And something was said that was really funny. And we were all laughing. And I looked up at him, had his arm around me. And I looked up at him, and he gave me a kiss. And I'm telling you, we are still talking about that first kiss.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we rarely have an anniversary, but what one of us is like bringing up that first kiss.
Oh.
It's true. It's the truth. Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, it caught you by
It,
surprise?
it yeah, caught us both by surprise, I think,
Oh. It was like
Yeah,
spontaneous.
yeah, it was all very spontaneous.
Yeah.
Well, at least it was on my part. He might have had a plan, but yeah. I think he was probably thinking, we've only got 2 more blocks till we get to her house. If I'm going to
Oh.
do this, I better do it now. I don't know.
Oh, brave man since day one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and wow, that's actually really cool. So when did he actually, or did he ask you like officially to be his girlfriend?
He asked me to go steady. He was in the probably beginning of his sophomore year, my freshman year, and he got his class ring. I'm not sure as far as going steady, but we were already like understanding that we didn't want to be around with anybody else.
Mm.
But we went. That was back in the day when you got the class ring, and then you wrapped it with Angora,
Mm.
and you wrapped it and wrapped it around the band, and then you put that on a necklace. And then everybody knew that you were going steady. If you were wearing somebody else's class ring,
Oh.
then nobody is supposed to ask you out for a date because you
Okay.
already were with somebody.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Look at that.
I had so many strings of Angora. Have you seen what Angora is? Do you know what that is?
I no, I don't think so. I
If you
think
ever
I
seen an Angora sweater, they're super soft. They're like knitted, and they're very fuzzy, soft. Um, anyway, you could buy Angora. Everybody was selling it because that was the big craze.
mm,
And it was just this soft yarn with a lot of fuzz to it. And when you wrapped it around the ring, it was just fuzzy
okay.
looking.
Yeah.
We still got the class rings that he wore mine on his pinky finger, and I wore his
Well, you guys were
on
official,
my
official.
necklace. Yeah.
Oh man. And so what happens after he graduates? Because I'm not sure you're a senior. Then he
Mm-hmm.
graduates. And so
Yeah.
what happened during that phase of the relationship?
Yeah. See, we would, when I was a senior and he was working at the Square D company here in town in the factory, which his family members all worked over there, his mom and his dad and his brother and his aunt and his uncle. And it was a good job. At the time, it was one of the better paying jobs in town.
Mm,
And I think he started out at 275 an hour.
that was a good
That
job.
was a good paying job. Oh my gosh, can you even imagine? But he would come and he bought a car, a convertible, a 1966 Le Mans convertible,
Hmm.
baby blue with black leather interior. And he would come and pick me up. We had open lunch.
He was making the big bucks.
So, yeah, I mean, look, he bought a brand new car. I think that car cost him brand new $3,600 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe. Um, so anyway, he'd come and pick me up at lunchtime because we could leave at lunchtime. He was working second shift at the factory, so he was free at lunchtime. He would pick me up and we would go to lunch together, but I thought it was such a big deal because he'd drive up in this beautiful convertible with Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass stuck in the 8-track player, just cranked up, and I'd jump in the car and we'd go get a sandwich, and I'd go back to school and he'd go back home, I guess.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but it would, yeah.
So Gloria and John were the talk of the
Oh,
school.
gee, I don't know about that, but there was a lot of the sports guys because he was in the basketball and he was in football and all that. So he was kind of, a part of that sports crowd.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of them that were steady boyfriend girlfriend,
Mm.
you know, for a lot of our high school time together. A
Yeah.
lot of them stuck together.
So you were in love with seeing Grandpa John just driving his
Yes.
convertible down and having
It's
lunch.
like, oh, look at that. That's my guy right there in that
Yeah.
convertible. I'll see you later, girls.
Nice, young, handsome.
Yes. And then I got my engagement ring before I got out of high school.
Oh, did
He
ya?
asked me to marry him before I got out, while I was a senior.
How did he do that?
Well, we went to church together on Sunday here at the Baptist church, which is the church that we got married in right here
Okay.
next door.
Wow.
Yeah, right on the corner over there. That's where all the kids were baptized, and that was where he was raised in Sunday school. He never missed a Sunday. He has pins they would give you for attendance for Sunday school, and he got an attendance pin every year because his parents and him never missed
Wow.
a Sunday. That was a priority, and yeah.
Okay.
So, anyway, we went to church together, and he and his mom were acting a little bit, they were kind of a little giggly, and he was saying things to her while we were in church. And I was like, I wonder what they're talking about.
Oh, so you
I
noticed.
noticed something was up,
Yeah.
but I didn't no way think that
Right.
that's what it was. And so we went to what was called the Tally Ho Steakhouse at the time. It was a real nice, quiet, nice place to have lunch or dinner. And we were there. And while we were there, we were sitting at a corner table. And it was kind of the Tally Ho was probably the nicest place in town to eat at the time. I mean, there were tablecloths on the tables, and
Mm.
it was just very subdued and quiet in there. And he asked me to marry him while we were sitting at the table at the Tally Ho Steakhouse. That's been torn down since, but um, yeah, that was when he asked me to marry him. And I said, "Is that what you and your mother have been talking about when we were in church?" He said, "Yes." I said, I thought something was up. So when we left in the Tally Ho, we wanted to get right out of there and because we wanted to be alone. And in the car, I mean, you can't hug and kiss in the Tally Ho, okay? So we went out to the car then, and we are sitting in the front seat of the car there, and he's kissing me, and I was shy at that time about like being out in public kissing and things like that. I
Mm.
wasn't one to be doing that, and there was a truck stop next to the Tally Ho, and there was a semi truck driver sitting in his truck. And when John was done kissing me, I looked out to see if anybody was watching, and that truck driver was just smiling from ear to ear. Oh my gosh, John, look at that. Oh, great. Now look what's happened.
You get red. You got red.
Yeah, yeah. But
He said, "Good
anyway,
job." That's how
that
it
was the
started.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Did he give you a speech or anything you can remember?
Other than telling me that he loved me
Mm.
and he didn't want anybody else to be with me, that he
Mm.
wanted to be the person in my life, then that was when he just said, "So, would
Oh,
you marry me
yeah.
someday?"
Yeah. Now, why do you think he did it? How long were you dating before I guess, you were 13 to about 18, so about 5 years ish?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
Okay.
graduated when I was 17. When we
Okay.
got married, because he got his draft papers for Vietnam,
Okay.
and so we were gonna wait till I turned 18 to get married,
Okay.
but he got his draft papers, and we had to move the wedding up, so that we could be married when he left for the military.
Okay.
And my mom and dad had to sign for permission for me since I was only
I
17.
was gonna ask. Now, did he get your parents' permission um, to
You know,
marry you?
no, I don't think he did. I think we went just went to, and he probably had already told mom, but I don't know that he specifically did that.
Mm.
It was no surprise to them. We'd been together all through high school. The only thing is um, our junior year, we had been exclusively together, freshman, sophomore, junior, and my mom thought that we ought to date around, that we needed some dating experience before we made a decision about being together.
Mm.
Which, I mean, that was probably a wise thing for her to be thinking. I didn't think so at the time. So she made me break up with him
Ooh.
and take a break. And so he and I talked about it, and I said, well, he said, maybe we should try this. Maybe we should each just go out with somebody else and see how it goes. And so he went out with two different girls named Linda, actually, that were in school with me. And then I really didn't want to go out with anybody else. And so I thought I wouldn't. But when he did, I decided that I was going to. I said, well, okay, then. So I went out with Steve. And, after I had my date with Steve, then John came to me and said, I don't really think dating around is something we ought to be doing.
You're like, "That's
Okay.
right, Linda."
Yeah, so there, Linda. They're like, really? I thought I was going to change my name to Linda. This is Linda he's dating. Then we got another Linda. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, after I did that, then he decided that he didn't think that was such a good idea.
Yeah.
But my mom still thought it was. So we,
How did your parents take, say, even your dad, for his little girl to get married so young? Did they have any particular thoughts?
you know, um, the war was going on and he had gotten drafted and it, we we would not have waited probably, but maybe another year. Um, but honestly, it wasn't that unusual for somebody young to be getting married, and
Mm.
I never really aspired toward um, career. I was a secretary, and I did well with that, um, but I didn't really.
Your future
I
was
I
with
wanted to
him.
be I wanted to be a mom, I wanted to
Mm.
be a wife, I wanted to be I guess because that's what my mom was, and she was happy doing it, and that was what I thought I'd like to do,
Mm.
other than I knew that I would work in an office
Mm.
because I had, all my secretarial skills from high school that I'd been, taught, and I had a job before I even got out of high school.
What was your first job?
I worked as an engineering secretary for Bryan Steam Corporation,
Mm.
and they're still here in town in business. Yeah,
Look at that.
yeah.
What would you say some of the biggest lessons you took from that first job?
That first job, I totally enjoyed that. I enjoyed being a secretary. I loved to type. That came easy to me, and I actually wrote shorthand. I was on business courses in high school, and that was when we wrote shorthand.
Mm.
And so, whenever the guys would want a letter typed up, then they would dictate to me, and then I would write it up in shorthand. And it was always intimidating because the president of the company at the time, um, he knew shorthand. He knew how to write it, and he would dictate in phrases. Now, I was
Mm.
always kind of intimidated because he would watch me almost as if he was watching me to see if I wrote it right. And in shorthand, there are certain symbols for phrases,
Mm.
and so he would dictate and make a phrase, and then he would go on. But he knew exactly what I was writing. Then the dictaphone came out, it was called. And then they would um, they would use a microphone and they would record their letters. And then I would take the little disc, the little floppy disk thing, I would put it in my machine, put on my earphones, and then I would listen to them and I would type while they were
Mm.
dictating their letters.
Okay.
So I did hours of that. Hours. I was really got to be fast on the typewriter. Kind of miss that. The typewriter and the piano.
The piano.
Mhm.
You played the piano too?
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, and I had my mom's piano, but
Did you learn it growing up or?
yeah,
Okay.
I took piano lessons in the 6th and 7th grade. At the time, I wasn't that thrilled about it, but over the years, I loved it. I used to spend a lot of hours singing and playing piano, and
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot of
So,
fun.
Grandpa John got drafted.
Yeah.
And so, what's going through your mind at this time?
Well, everybody knew that if you got drafted then, you were probably going to end up in Vietnam. You hoped and prayed it would be Germany instead of Vietnam, but because a lot of them did go to Germany, we had a big presence, military presence in Germany at the time. But and he got his basic and his AIT training done at Fort Knox. That was 14 weeks, and then he got his orders after that. Now we had gotten married by now,
Right.
so we knew that it would be good to be married when he went into the military because there's certain benefits
Mm.
that a wife has, that the
Right.
spouse has. And if anything would happen to him, then I could receive those benefits too. So that's really kind of why we hurried up and got married before he left.
That's pretty smart, especially
But
when you know what you want already.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was important at the time. And I mean, okay, 58,479 troops
Mm.
did not come home, men and women.
Right.
I can't hardly stand to think about it. Think about it. 58,000 of our Americans didn't come home. My husband is 18, 19 years old, and he's over there in the middle of a war. It was terrible. It was terrible. Yeah. Most of them were, you know, 21 years of age and under. I mean, they're not even allowed to drink alcohol, but they get
Right.
drafted. They put a gun in their hand and they're off to war. It's so wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So it was a toss up whether, you'd leave and come back.
It definitely was. Every night on the news, uh, the number of deaths were reported
Mm.
every night on the news. This is what happened. So many from the 25th Infantry Division, which is what he was in the Army, but there were different divisions in different military units, and so many were lost today in this unit and that unit, and every night on the news, the
Just
casualties.
yeah.
Yeah.
What a nightmare to live through.
Yeah.
How long was he gone?
He was gone a year.
A
A
year.
year. They asked him to re up, but he wasn't going to do that, stay any longer. No.
Yeah, no kidding. And I know you were a young mom, so how soon
Hmm.
did you get pregnant by your first child?
Yeah, we were married for 3 months, and
Okay.
actually got married when he was in at Fort Knox in basic training. So our first child was born a day after our first anniversary.
Mm.
Debbie was born, and John was in Vietnam when she was born. And so he didn't get to see her until she was 6 weeks old.
Mm.
And he got to come to Hawaii and meet us there. And I was able to take her. And the way that he got notified of her birth was the Red Cross sent somebody out to the jungle where he was in an encampment, and they told him that he was a dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Did
that
he
was
know
how he
you
learned.
were pregnant while he was gone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We wrote every single day.
Okay.
All we had was letters. We didn't have any type of way of communicating. Um, you couldn't even make a phone. You couldn't make a phone call. You could go through the special switchboard and make a call. Like if your wife had the baby, you could make one call.
Mm.
And he called, and I missed his call.
Oh.
I was gone. And that was my only chance that year to talk to him. And I missed it. And I'm telling you, I cried for 2 days because I missed his call, you know. But like my grandson, they're always saying he's in the military, and he was in the Middle East, and so they were apart for a long time, for a year. And he said, I don't even know how you did it. So, well, you just do what you have to do to get through each day. And I said, we wrote letters to each other every day. Every night I would write a letter, and we'd put a calendar. We had a little pocket calendar,
Mm.
and I would mark off the days that had passed since he mailed the calendar to me.
Mm.
Then I would send the calendar back to him, and he would mark
Oh.
off the number of days that had passed. And so we sent that back and forth.
That's
So that was how we counted down the days.
wow.
Yeah, by
That's pretty
marking off that
smart.
calendar. So
Yeah.
yeah.
These letters, do you still have some of them
Mm-hmm.
or all of them?
I have some of them.
Yeah.
I kept the ones that were significant as far as events that were going on, because I knew, referring back to them. Some of them were just love letters, but others had, the love message in it, but also had about the activities that day, or what had been going on. And
Yeah.
so it was like a diary of the
Yes.
activities. So
Right.
I've got at least half of them.
Wow. What a treasure.
I've got them in a notebook.
Okay.
In fact,
Okay.
I just opened them up and put them in a 3-ring binder notebook.
Yeah.
In chronological order. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, like a picture memory book. It's a journal with all the letters. Wow.
Yeah.
So,
But
he finally makes it down,
he makes it home.
makes it home.
He makes it home.
So, did you know he was coming home? Like, did you know to expect him? Or was it a thing where he just opens the door and says, I'm home?
No, I knew to expect him.
Okay.
I knew to expect him, and we knew when to go pick him up.
Okay.
And, but when he arrived, he landed in California.
Mm.
And before he got off of the plane, the stewardesses, or whoever it was, a military plane, they, did we stop?
We can cut this part out. Her mic is like falling or something.
Okay.
You can.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Okay.
Continue on.
Okay. Okay. So when he came home, he landed in California. And they said, do you want to put on civilian clothes? I guess it wasn't a military plane, because they said, do you want to put on civilian clothes so that the people that are out here protesting the war won't
you
know
alone.
that you were in the military.
Right.
If you can imagine that. He said, no. He said, I'm not going to try to hide that. It was such an unpopular war. So here he is, been gone for a year, fighting for his country. He comes home, and people spit on him.
What?
Yep. I mean, how could you? But the war was so unpopular, and there were people moving to Canada to keep from getting drafted. Um, so, that's just what it was. It was an unpopular war, and you were looked down upon for going and
Right.
fighting.
Right. Like you had a choice anyways,
Yeah.
or some
Well,
of
they
them
made
anyways.
see, they made a choice. Some of them did defect, or some of
Right.
them went out of the country to avoid going. But
But nonetheless, it was an event that was happening, um, period. And, and it's like we're Americans, and to receive, your own people,
yeah,
whether good or bad or whatever your opinions are.
his opinion was not about whether we should be fighting the war. It
Right.
wasn't a political decision. He had no choice. He was
Right.
drafted. So to me, he should have been given the respect that he
Yeah.
deserved for simply serving when he was asked,
Right. Yeah.
despite what the reasons for the war were.
Right.
It was definitely wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So you saw this happening in front of your eyes?
no, he told
No.
me about it. See,
Okay.
because he landed in California
Oh, that's
first, and then
right.
he flew into Indiana from there. So he told me about it. So whenever you see a Vietnam veteran, especially, you always need to say, "Welcome home, soldier." That's what you do for them,
Right. And all the soldiers for sure.
all of them. Truthfully, yes. But, I think our country has learned to respect. I feel like they have way more than they did for the Vietnam
I think so.
veterans. So that has become the official greeting for the Vietnam soldiers. So that's
Right.
just what you do.
Mm. Yes. Yes. Wow. So, but glad to hear he came home,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
He came home
Mm.
and saw little Debbie.
Okay. Yep. Yep. He about squashed her when we were in Hawaii. He got off the bus at Fort DeRussy in Hawaii, and I was holding her little tiny thing at 6 weeks old, and he squeezed me and was squashing me and hugging me, and I said, well, be careful. I said, did you want to take a look at your daughter? She's down right here. Yes, I do.
And it's to think of like everything that you went through, and 6 weeks postpartum, and you're flying to Hawaii.
Hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
no, he came home.
He
No, the first
no,
time
the first time when
you
I
went,
showed him her, yeah,
Debbie.
she was 6 weeks
Right.
old. And I'll tell you what's the um, neat part of that story is that if she would have been born on her due date, I would not have been able to take her with me because she was required to be 6 weeks old.
Oh,
And she would have only been 4 weeks old if she'd have come
well, look at
at that time.
that.
And I rode a bike and I walked and I did everything I could to get going into labor. And sure enough, she came 2 weeks early.
Wow.
So that had to be a God thing
No kidding.
because I hated sending him back. We met in September and he had to go back till January. And I knew when he left that we might not see each other again. So I
Mm,
needed to take his daughter.
yes.
And so, yeah, that was a big answer to prayer.
Wow. So you guys planned her with that in mind of, at least keep a piece of him just in
Exactly.
case.
Exactly. My mom was at first not, and I understand. I mean, I was newly married. He's going away. Her being my mom, she was worried about me. And then I found out that I had gotten pregnant, and she wasn't that excited about it when we first told her. She was apprehensive. But then after he left, she told me that she was really glad that I was,
Mm,
because I would always have a part of John with me if
right.
anything would happen.
Right. Right.
So yeah,
With
but
the uncertainty. Wow. I mean, that takes big courage,
yeah,
and even just the follow up and, living through the fear, through the pregnancy, and
yeah.
then, traveling 6 weeks
Oh my
postpartum.
gosh, exactly.
I
Didn't think
mean,
anything of it though. Boy, I had my mind set on where I was going, and you
that made
don't
it
get in my
easy.
way. I'm
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
Yeah. You knew what you wanted. I mean, I guess that really does make things easier, breaks down a lot of mental challenges when you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what it is that you want and you're excited about it.
Had to do it. Yeah.
Sheesh, man, yeah, I can't even.
Took pictures every month. I did a profile picture. My sister in law took a picture of me sideways so that he could see how big my tummy was getting, how
Wow.
big the baby was growing. So we had, the number 3 on the closet door, and I would stand sideways, and then a 4, and then a 5. And the only thing is, when we took the 9-month picture, um, I think she was born 2 days after the 9-month picture. So yeah.
Wow, that's very creative. So motherhood, I would say there's a lot we could talk about motherhood,
So much.
um and just, but looking back, and just thinking of your experience throughout motherhood. I mean, your youngest is how old now? Do you know?
52. She'll
52.
be in April. She'll be
Okay.
50.
So,
No, she is 52.
okay.
Yeah, she's 52.
So, looking back, what would you say, and reflecting on your experiences, what were some of the most challenging, you would say, faces that maybe you wish somebody would have warned you? Um,
I'll tell you what, I think before motherhood, I've always said I think that somebody should warn you that your first 5 years of marriage are not your best.
mm,
I think a lot of people get married with that notion that they're going into this thing that's just going to be absolute bliss, and there is so much growth that needs to happen. And so, talking about that, like,
mm,
I always wish that somebody would have told me, because I thought it was just going to be perfect.
high school forever.
And yeah, kind of that thing.
Yeah.
And so I always I've actually given that advice to all 3 of the kids. Like, I'm telling you, the first 5 years of marriage will not be your best.
Just get through those
Okay, I
5.
say this with some authority and experience, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the motherhood thing. I mean, I did have 3 kids in like 44 months. I was figuring up exactly, it was 3 of them in 44 months,
Wow.
but I didn't really even think anything
It was
of that at the time. I was totally wanting to be a mom
mm,
and was totally excited. I had a daughter, and then had a son a couple years later, and then 15 months later had another daughter. And I didn't mean to get pregnant the third time.
mm,
The third one is definitely was an accident, but I'm telling you, God has blessed me and John abundantly by having a third
mm.
child. The family that she has brought to us, the blessings that we've gotten, I said, we both say, God knew exactly what he
Mm.
was doing when he gave us a third child.
Yeah.
But motherhood, I mean, until they got to be teenagers, it was more of a challenge when they were teenagers, like it is for everybody. But I totally enjoyed being a mom.
Every
Totally.
phase of the way.
Yeah. 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 I was busy, and I was tired some of the time. But when they got to be teenagers, I got the job as district manager for Sears. And so I was gone quite a bit. So John was at home taking care of some of those years.
Mm.
We would talk all the time, and if they needed advice or if they needed to be corrected or whatever, I would do it on the phone. But I was gone a lot.
Okay. I
But
see.
I mean, none of them got into big messes or big trouble.
Sounds like just kind of motherhood was just such a natural thing for you. And
It's,
I can even see it now, like as a grandma, like you're such a warming grandma. Like, we're at your home, and
Mhm.
it feels like good, cozy grandma home.
Good.
Even though it's a new home where we gather at now,
Yeah.
right? So it's not like, well, it's a place where we all came up, which that is also very impressive and very it has a very nice touch, like when we went to Connie's mother, the place where they grew up. But
Yeah. Yeah.
as far as in your home and around your energy, even if it's a brand new home, it feels like grandma's home.
Oh, yeah.
You
Well, thank you
know.
for that. Well, and we moved a lot of times, so our kids are not attached to any one house.
Mm,
Although I do admire anybody that does stay in the
right.
same home, and I never really wanted to be that person. And John, we always bought some place, fixed it up, and made a little money on it, and then we bought something a little nicer.
Mm.
Um, but we actually, in our 57 years of marriage, have moved 14 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So my
now,
kids definitely did not get connected to any one home.
yes,
Uh,
yes. Would you say where you're at now is your forever home?
our forever home. It's up there on the fireplace.
Yeah,
Welcome
that's
to
true.
our forever home.
That is true.
Yeah,
It is up there.
definitely.
Beautiful home you guys just built. That was a whole experience
Yep.
within itself, and now you have it exactly how you
We
envisioned
do.
it.
We do. We tried to build it as more economically and try to stay around 1,400 square feet. Um, but I just couldn't bring
Fit everything.
myself to build something where I could have 20 family members in and be comfortable if we're going to have this little house. I just can't do this. So we did end up about 2,000 square feet, but it's not overly it's not overly large.
No,
And
no.
sometimes, like yesterday, it could have been a little bigger.
No, it was so perfect. It's like the perfect design. It's very welcoming for large gatherings like
Yeah,
we were last night.
that was the important part.
Yeah.
I know a friend told me that someone told her that when they're looking for a home, don't look for a home for anybody but you and your husband. That for your prioritize, the two of you and your needs. And because she has raised her family.
Mm.
And so she was telling me that. I think she was trying to encourage me to keep a little bit smaller floor plan in mind. But knowing that financially I might be better off. But anyway, it didn't turn out that way. I just couldn't bring myself to have a home where I couldn't have family and comfortably. I'm
Right.
not ready to be done with that part of my life.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I don't want to be done with that.
Yeah, I think you help a lot of people around you, and you bring so much joy to those around you, so it works out both ways, I guess.
I think it's paid off financially and otherwise. We're just fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going home, honey? Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Bye,
all right.
Grandpa. There's Grandpa over there leaving the furniture store after his workout. Okay.
Made it up the steps okay too. So
Yeah, and his nice big red truck. So, okay. So, you guys, you have three children. Now, did you work all this time?
I tried to work part time.
Okay.
Needed to work part time because he was on the police department and didn't make that good of money. Then he worked extra jobs. He usually worked at least 2 or 3 jobs at a time
Mm,
because police department pay in a small town is just not that great. Um, but
Now, how was
he
it being a police officer's wife?
it's nothing like it is nowadays.
Mm,
You 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 could be proud of the fact that they were, and they were respected. And
mm,
it was during the time when authority was much more respected than it is now.
right.
And so, no, it wasn't. It was a thing that I was really proud of, um, which I
Yeah.
think is hard for our police officers
Yeah,
nowadays
for
to
sure.
say that. And yeah,
It's definitely not a it's an easy job to judge and not an easy job to do.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It is. Back in the day, then, whenever they did anything, it was assumed that they were right
Mm,
about their decisions and about their arrests, that they needed to do them, and that they weren't out there arresting people that didn't need to be taken care of.
yeah.
But yeah, it was, oh yeah, if you had him on a podcast and you wanted to talk about years on the police department, you would have a whole diary
List.
of stories.
I I
Good
can't
stories,
imagine.
funny stories, a lot
Yeah,
of them.
for sure. I'm sure they had all kinds of stories. I mean, Carrie, which is the previous owner here, he
Yeah.
would post a lot of those stories oftentimes. And yeah, I mean, I would sit there and read them as
Yeah.
long or as short as they were because,
Yes, Gary's my brother-in-law. He is a great storyteller. He honestly is. He
yes,
is a great
he
storyteller.
really is.
Yeah, good guy. But yeah, I worked part-time. Tried to keep part-time jobs whenever they would need me to go full-time. A lot of times I'd have to just switch to something different. Because with 3 kids at home, I wasn't gonna be working full-time.
Yeah.
My mom usually kept the kids when I had part time jobs, or John worked nights.
Mm,
And so he watched them while I was at work, even though he had been up all night
mm,
working.
mm.
And he would watch the kids while I worked. And then when I got home, he would go to bed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it's
just
how
to
you do it.
keep that income up, up, up.
Yeah. You do what you can
Yeah.
with what you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eh,
He's
right.
retired. John's retired twice now. And I still work at the furniture store because I just love to do that, and I'm not ready to not be um, working and being out and about. And I enjoy the time with our customers, and I enjoy moving furniture around, don't I, Ethan?
Well, you
I
are
like to rearrange the store. I do the window, and so yeah, makes me feel useful, I guess.
very active,
Yeah.
very creative because, and you're always helping out with especially anything that needs moved around or decorated or needs create a creation touch. And
There it is. Never thought of myself as that person, but it's kind of turned into that.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, if you really think about it, it's kind of been like that since, I mean, hearing your story
Yeah.
since the beginning of our story anyways here.
Yeah.
I can see the creativity, taking pictures every month. I mean, now it's easy, and even then, some people don't do it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then, like back then, it's like you had to have a camera.
Oh, yeah.
It was not so easy as put your phone on camera mode and boom, you
Oh,
got a
no.
picture,
Yeah. We
right?
we had an Instamatic 104, and that was the camera to have at the time.
That's right.
Then you had to take the picture. Then you had to wait to take the film and get it developed. And then I would have to send it by letter over to Vietnam. So by the time John would get the 3-month picture, I was probably 4 months pregnant. Yeah. By the time he got the 9-month picture, I had delivered the baby. So,
Yeah, it
um,
was a process.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, and I know I want to be like respectful of your time, but I do want to know. I'm curious to know how you and Grandpa John, like what you guys did or what the conversations were like when raising your kids. Like as far as like, okay, we want to, continue instilling these values, and you think about that because it's a relationship. You come from your background, he comes from his background. Even though they may be similar, sometimes you have to work out or at least talk about how it is that you're going to bring up your kids, and you of course want the best for them. So what were
Yeah.
those conversations like, and what did you guys do?
We were both raised in homes that with good Christian values. So at the core of who we both are, although we're imperfect, we're the best that we can be. With God's help. So we both came from that same mindset.
Mm,
He was from a Christian home and I was. So occasionally when we would agree about things, we would talk it over. But for the most part, we both we both had the same values and we both knew um, what we felt was the right thing.
mm,
I think when they got a little older, we disagreed a little bit more, but it was really never hard to come um, to come to a decision about how we wanted to discipline
right.
or what example we wanted to set because we were kind of the same from the beginning.
Mm,
And
mm,
once we had gone through the Vietnam years and we'd been apart and and so distant from each other during all that, it changed our relationship.
mm.
It
How so?
solidified it.
Okay.
Um, when you know that there's a possibility that you're going to lose the other person on both sides. I mean, he knew that he might not come home, and I
Right.
knew that too. So it just it just does something to
The
your
psyche.
relationship that
Mm,
it's something that I mean, that was our first year of marriage. How many people experience that
right.
the first year of marriage?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then when he
That's
came home, we had adjustments that had to be made. He went
mm,
he went away a boy. I mean, honestly, got drafted when he was 18 and he did come back a man,
mm.
changed, in a lot of ways. So, but yeah, as far as the kids, yeah, we were pretty much on the same page most all the time.
And how did you handle it? Would you discuss it together first and then come to the kids, or
When
did you
they
guys have a certain way to handle?
yeah, when they were during the teenage years.
Mm,
Yeah, we would have to talk about stuff or I mean, we would immediately both agree that, this was wrong, this wasn't going to be allowed.
mm-hmm.
And then talk about what the discipline might be.
Yeah.
But
Because, I feel like that is important, like the approach to, just disciplining your kids, and sometimes it's like even like when Logan and I were talking and they're like, okay, we have to remember that we are speaking in front of our child, like, and we have to
mhm,
catch ourselves. So, I feel like there is importance there is definitely it's important to think about the approach on how to handle, certain conversations, and how we're gonna go about doing things, especially that affect Maddie or our kids,
mhm,
so
mhm. And a
um
lot of those it'll just fall into the pattern of your day-to-day behavior
mhm.
because you and Logan both have good values and that's at the core of the persons that you are. You're both good people. And so, yeah, you might make some mistakes along the way, but it won't be because there wasn't love involved.
Right,
It
right.
goes back to that old thing of if love is the motivation, then any decision that you make isn't necessarily the wrong decision.
Mhm.
Sometimes you might even think it's wrong when down the road you'll look back and say, I guess not.
Yeah, that's so wise.
Just
So
keep that in mind.
wise.
Always keep that in mind. If you can live that way, you'll be much more
It,
satisfied with yourself.
it's so powerful.
Yeah.
It really is. And so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
God's word.
I think it's important. Sometimes it's like these little things that enter your ear and they stick and they kind of help you navigate through, you
Mhm.
know, just random challenging moments or, all kinds of moments really,
Yeah.
good and challenging.
Yeah. Whether it's with your child or whether it's with each other.
Right.
I mean, if you can always, we've had 57 years of marriage. I'm telling you, it's not been a perfect marriage. There is no such thing. And anybody that tells you that they never fight, that they never, no, that's not reality. It's not,
Right.
and it's not the arguments, it's not the fighting, it's not the disagreements, it's how you resolve it.
Mm,
It's no big deal to disagree with each other. Just because you're
right.
married to somebody doesn't mean that they are going to think the same way that you do,
Right.
you know. So
Right.
it's the way that you resolve that. And if you do that with love in your heart for each other, then it'll always work out. You'll
Yeah.
always be together. I mean, we've been committed to making marriage work since we took the vows,
Mm.
you know.
How long
And
has that been now?
57 years, yeah.
57. Oh.
And it's not always easy. And
Mhm.
and and you're going to change. You're going to have this part of your life and things are going to be challenges, and then later when the kids are teenagers, that's going to be a whole new thing. And then when the empty nest happens, that's a whole new thing. And
Mm.
then when you get to be seniors and you've got physical challenges, um, and it gets harder for you to get through your days because of age and health problems, then it's a whole new thing. So it just evolves into that.
Mm.
But at the core of that, if you just hold on to the love in your heart and you commit to the promise that you made,
Mm.
that you hold your marriage together for better or for worse, so that when you get to be married 60 years or 50 years, you can look back on it and you've got something of value.
Mm.
If you don't work at it, it's not going to mean that much to you. If you don't work at it, you're going to walk out, is what's going to happen.
Wow.
Just do the work. Do the work. It's worth it.
You say that and it kind of applies to everything. What you just said, but yes, and something that's very difficult, especially nowadays, it's you know, not throwing the towel or not giving up quickly. Like you said, it's showing something of value, and it's usually something of value is things that you work towards or
Mm-hmm.
you work for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I'm amazed at how many young people or uh, middle-aged people even that are appalled at our longevity, that are amazed that we've been able to keep a marriage together, even for over 50 years. It's always like, wow,
yeah,
wow, how did
yeah,
you do it?
right,
Wow, you know.
yeah.
Um,
I'm amazed at I really watch and try to learn because you guys are always so happy. So it's like it guess it's kind of crazy to say, but it's kind of like that those perfect grandparents you read from a storybook, and I'm sure things are not perfect behind those
yeah,
doors,
definitely
but
not.
whatever you guys do, it makes it feel that way for the ones coming in and spending time,
That's
and
good.
it's very inspiring, even to look forward towards. It's like, wow, like, okay, that's a good example of something I'd like to model,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
how did they do it? Like, what are some of those key things which you've shared many with us of like helping working towards
Mm-hmm.
and building something big and harmonious and
Yeah.
happy. And it's so true. Like every time I think of a good example, especially now I have those thoughts more than ever of like, okay, what kind of household do we want to build for Maddie and Maddie's kids, and
Yeah. Yeah.
um and we really do, and I tell Logan this all the time, and Logan's very proud of it too, of like, okay, I think of like Grandma Hentgen. Like,
Oh,
okay, what are
yeah.
some of the rituals every day, every year, and some of those things you
Oh,
guys do,
yeah.
and so inclusive, very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? We were fortunate to start a family when we were young.
Mm.
And so when I was 40, I became a grandparent. Best job I ever had. Now we're blessed with great grandparents, great grandparenting. And so, this cycle just continues, it's not perfect. And even now, we have discussions about our needs, what we might not be getting from each other, and take the time to sit and talk about that and try to
Mm.
explain, because women are from Venus, men are from Mars. Have you heard that? Women are from Venus and men are from Mars. So, we're on different levels. So you got to educate each other about what you're going through. Don't assume that the other person understands what's
Mm.
going on in your head.
Yeah,
So, but
isn't that right on every level
yeah,
of the relationships?
the marriage is not perfect, but the love that we have for each other, because it was given to us by God.
Yeah,
That's the perfect part.
yeah. So I want to thank you so much for just sharing your life journey. I know it's not anything easy to talk about, especially when there's so many emotions involved and so
Yeah.
many so much history, very good history and emotional history, and
Yeah, there's a lot of
a,
good times and some hard times.
and a lot of stuff, we need a whole day of recording to touch base on.
We do.
And
Get
but
Grandpa here and we'll record a show about marriage.
yes. So that's and I think this is such a gift, not just for us, for the family, but I think for anybody that listens, because there's so much good advice, and there's so much good advice I hope to capture in as many episodes as I can, from exactly people like you, that I respect those values and I admire those values, and I hope to act on those values and keep passing them on forward, that a lot of us need nowadays. And so if we're going to post something on the internet, maybe hopefully it's something valuable like this, of what you just
Yes.
shared.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
It makes your life feel like it has meaning
yes,
beyond
yes,
yourself,
definitely.
for
And
sure.
it feels good. I'd love to learn um, from people like you, especially, that I admire, for one, and two, that has wisdom to share.
Well,
And
thank
it's
you.
one of those things that just are priceless.
Well, you're pretty wise for your age too, my dear.
Well, that's a compliment. Every episode I end it with two final questions.
hmm
The first one is, what is the greatest piece of advice you've ever received?
The greatest piece of advice to me comes straight out of the Bible, and that is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
It's come a full circle.
Yep.
And um, the final question is, what is your personal definition of happiness?
Living each day motivated by love, and not letting myself or others down by not doing that.
Mm.
I I hate when I get through a day and I realize that I didn't say the right thing at the right time, or say it in the right way where I could have reached out to somebody. I hate to miss those opportunities.
Mm.
So, to me, a life well lived is that you that you recognize and you're aware of opportunities that you have to share God's love. And at
Mm.
the end of the day, then you will not be disappointed in yourself.
Wow. Wow.
That's it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again. And
Thank you.
we'll have to do it again, maybe with Grandpa next time.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I think.
I know.
Grandpa doesn't say a lot, but when he does say some things, when he gets serious, he has some good words of wisdom.
He has bangers. Yeah. All righty. Thank you everyone for watching, and see you next time.